In a future world, a man undergoes a cruel form of torture. His clothes are slowly cut open, and a liquid is applied to his arms, evenly spread with a special technique. A timed alarm clock is hung around his neck, and an iron ring is fitted on his arm. As a ventilation shaft opens, two strong men force his arm outside the train into temperatures of -100 degrees. Initially, the man screams in pain, but within a second, he loses all sensation. A woman nearby says there are 7 minutes left as she prepares to give a speech. At the end of 7 minutes, the man's arm was like ceramic. A burly man beside him, wielding a massive hammer, smashes it without hesitation, causing the man to scream in excruciating pain. His companions can't bear to watch, but none dare to resist. In the year 2035, the Ice Age arrives, killing 99% of humanity. The survivors board a never-stopping train, the Snowpiercer, which has been traveling across the icy landscape for 17 years. Not only is there a separate ecosystem, but people are divided into strict classes. The wealthy enjoy a life of luxury in the front cars with endless fresh food and amenities like an aquarium, while the poor are crammed in the dirty, overcrowded tail cars, living in squalor and facing brutal beatings for minor infractions.
Stop the rationing!
Sit down.
Their diet consists of a protein block delivered from the front cars, the contents of which are unknown. They endure this existence day in and day out for 17 years. Recently, a problem arises with the protein blocks. Each contains a bullet shell. Curtis discovers a note inside one, mentioning an engineer named Namgung Minsu, who is an expert on the train's security system but currently imprisoned in a jail car. Minsu might hold the key to controlling the entire Snowpiercer. Curtis and Gilliam speculate that the message was sent by someone forced to work in the dining car. To reach the wealthy section, they must pass through 3 security doors that open simultaneously for only 4 seconds. They just need the right opportunity. Until the day the train guards did their usual head count, but this time it was a little different. The guards in the front carriage forcibly took a group of children and measured their heights with a tape measure like cargo. Tanya, sensing something wrong, urges her hidden son to run but is immediately beaten by the guards. After measuring Tim's height, Claude takes Tanya's child away. Realizing they can't wait any longer, as more children might be taken, Curtis and his group start preparing that night. So that night they began to prepare. They roll collected barrels to the segregation car, connecting them and waiting for the right moment. When it's time to eat, Curtis observes the rifle the guards are carrying, but he's not sure if there are any bullets left in it. Over the past 17 years, there have been 5 rebellions in the tail car, possibly depleting all the bullets. With no time left to confirm, they begin their action, demanding to see the train's conductor. The guards pull out an elderly man from the crowd, threatening the crowd to silence with a gun. But Curtis knows the best moment hasn't arrived yet. As the first door opens, Curtis grips the rope tightly, followed by the second and third doors. He then rushes through the crowd.
They've got no bullets!
The guns are empty. They guessed right. The long-oppressed people of the tail car finally erupt, lifting barrels and breaking through the iron doors that have confined them. Curtis leads the charge, with dozens, then hundreds of people joining in, shouting and pushing their way through the restrictive doors. Curtis charges forward, directly stepping on the barrels. In the nick of time, the barrels jam through all 3 gates. Curtis leads the way, knocking over several guards in quick succession. Behind the poor immediately swarmed up, and with the advantage of numbers, the nearby guards were quickly killed. But then a big guard appeared and waved his hammer so hard that those who rushed up around him were afraid to approach. At that moment, Gilliam's bodyguard Gray took off his shirt, landed on the ground with a running start, and then kicked back from the wall, killing the big guard with a single slash, and then took the key from the guard. It took no more than 3 seconds before and after, and this kind of strength made everyone look dumbfounded. They then find the prison car holding Minsu, the only man who can help them access the further compartments of the train. But Minsu was already in a deep sleep. Luckily, Curtis was prepared for this, so he took out the few energy blocks he had on him and waved them in front of Minsu's nose. Minsu woke up instantly. Curtis explains their plan to reach the engine car at the front and needs Minsu to open all the security gates, offering an energy block for each door opened. However, Minsu demands his daughter Yona join them, as she possesses a unique ability to sense what's behind each gate.
Nobody there.
As Minsu switched on the power, the door to the carriage was slowly opened. Curtis was the first to rush in and found it empty. It seems that the guards had left earlier. Just then, a loud bang echoes through the car. and blinding sunlight instantly floods in. They haven't seen the sun for a full 17 years in the dark tail car. However, Killiam looks concerned, knowing the world outside is still a frozen wasteland, and many will spend their entire lives on the train. They have no time to appreciate the snowy landscape outside. As more pressing matters await, they quickly open the second gate, revealing the food manufacturing car, operated by their old acquaintance Paul. Paul was taken from the tail car years ago to produce the protein needed by the poor, isolated for years. Paul appears somewhat neurotic. Curtis asks Paul if he provided the clue, but Paul seems unaware of it, knowing only that someone instructed him to insert bullet shells into the protein. Just as Curtis was trying to figure out who this person was, there was a sudden shriek from behind him, and it turned out to be a problem with the protein processor. Curtis took a closer look and almost threw up. The machine was full of cockroaches. This has been their food for over a decade. Meanwhile, the others, having never seen so much food, are frantically grabbing it, unaware of its true nature. Unable to bear revealing this harsh reality, Curtis instructs Painter not to record this incident. As they prepare to open the next car, Curtis, for safety, asks Yona to sense what's behind the gate. However, a second later, Yona's expression turns to terror, but it's already too late. As the heavy gate was slowly opened, it revealed a dense crowd of guards inside. It seems that a bloody battle is inevitable.
Friend, you suffer from the misplaced optimism of the doomed.
As Mason's words fall, a strange thing happens. All the guards put on night vision goggles. Suddenly, the lights overhead begin to dim. By the time Curtis realizes something is amiss, it's too late. The train enters a tunnel, plunging the surroundings into darkness. In the darkness, the poor were like lambs to the slaughter. They could only wield their weapons and were killed by the guards, one by one, and in the blink of an eye, dozens of them were slaughtered. In this moment of despair, Curtis remembers Namgun has a box of matches. He shouts out, and his voice echoes through the train. A little boy in the rear car lights up a torch, starting a relay race of fire. It begins with the child, then a one-armed adult, and then Gray. By the time Mason realizes what's happening, it's too late. The flickers of fire illuminate every dark corner of the cars. The poor people who have regained their vision are highly demoralized, and this time it's their turn to fight back. As soon as the two sides engage, the rich man's guards are quickly beaten back, retreating step by step. In the fierce battle, an injured Mason attempts to escape, spotted by Curtis. Just as Curtis was about to rush over, his best friend was captured by the enemy. Torn between pursuing Mason and saving his best friend captured by the enemy, Curtis hesitates. When Curtis was in a dilemma, Edgar made the decision for him. Curtis had no more worries. He rushed forward and grabbed Mason.
Stop, everybody! Stop! Drop your weapon!
As the train emerges from the tunnel, the lower-class passengers have won, but at a great cost. Curtis mourned for a while and then began to press Mason on the whereabouts of the children, but she didn't know either, and all the secrets were in the hands of the administrators. Curtis decides to move on, but in the dead of night, Killiam talks him out of it. He doesn't want to see any more people die, but Curtis is resolute, wanting to give everyone hope for survival. This time, Curtis leaves most of his group behind, taking only 6 people along with Mason as they move forward. From the moment this gate opens, they witness a beautiful world unseen for 17 years. First a compartment full of plants, then an underwater world with all kinds of fishes. In this car, there's also a luxurious kitchen where they taste the freshest salmon sushi and can sit and enjoy the snowy landscape outside. Now, it's time for Mason, who oppressed them, to taste the cockroach-based protein they've been eating. Next, they arrive at a slaughterhouse car, filled with rows of hanging poultry and fish. It's astonishing to think that while they were consuming cockroaches for 17 years, such abundant resources were available just ahead. Next they enter a classroom car, which is full of rich children, and a female teacher was teaching the children. Terrifyingly, the teacher is brainwashing the children with the idea that the train's leader is the savior of humanity and that the Snowpiercer represents the ultimate truth. Even more disturbing is that the children completely believe it.
Dogs are all doing their own shit. I heard old tale sectioners.
Witnessing the teacher and children's exaggerated enthusiasm, Curtis feels a chilling sense of horror. Suddenly, a bald man pushing a cart of eggs enters. He handed out an egg to everyone, and then continued on down the line, even to the poor people at the end of the carriage. But as he uses the eggs to distract everyone, the bald man suddenly pulls out a submachine gun from the cart. By the time Curtis realizes something is wrong, it's too late. The seemingly kind teacher also draws a submachine gun, initiating a one-sided massacre, catching everyone off guard. Fortunately, Grace swiftly takes down the teacher with a thrown knife. However, the people in the tail car aren't as lucky. Franco captured the esteemed Gilliam and executed him with a single bullet. Curtis's anger reaches its peak, and he ruthlessly kills Mason. From this moment on, they will be at war with the rich. Armed with the weapons they've seized, they continue through the successive train cars, each revealing more surprises. The world of the wealthy is starkly different from theirs, featuring high-tech dental clinics, exquisite tailor shops, and lavish parties that showcase the opulent lifestyle of the rich. But before they can fully process their astonishment, soldiers and Franco catch up, leading to another fierce battle. Gray, a highly skilled fighter, is killed by Franco, and Tanya dies while protecting Curtis from Franco's lethal attacks. Although Curtis eventually defeats Franco, the losses they suffer are heavy. What they witness next is even more shocking and appalling. Curtis still underestimated the extravagance of the wealthy. The richest car turned out to be a psychedelic disco. Everyone there was dressed in bizarre outfits, holding bottles of alcohol, their faces painted like ghosts, dancing meaningless trash dances. But Curtis disdained all of this. All he wanted now was to reach the front of the train, find the manager, and unleash his anger, to avenge his dead brothers and companions. After walking for another 10 minutes, they finally arrived at the last iron gate. But Curtis suddenly realized that this gate couldn't be opened from the outside.
Open it!
Furious, Curtis punched and cursed at the gate, but only the roar of machinery responded. The gate, symbolizing power, seemed to mock their helplessness. Curtis finally broke down, smoking the last cigarette in the world, reminiscing about the dark, sunless days of the past. It turns out that 17 years ago, the tail section once held over 10,000 people, with neither food nor water. After a month, they resorted to cannibalism. Curtis hated himself from that time, for he knew the taste of human flesh and that the flesh of babies was the most tender. It wasn't until an old man cut off his own arm, offering it as food to save a child, that they stopped their brutal survival of the fittest. And he was the one who led the cannibalism. Curtis had lived in pain for many years. The reason he was still alive was to open this door and find the manager, to strangle him for the atrocities he had committed, for the corruption he allowed, and for the innocent lives he had harmed, bringing him blood and pain as punishment. But Minsu didn't care about any of this. What he really wanted to open was the door next to it, to take his daughter back to the outside world. Minsu had discovered that the climate outside had already changed. The plane wreckage, completely buried in snow 10 years ago, now had its fuselage and tail exposed, indicating that the extreme cold was receding. For this, he had endured for 10 years, disguising himself as an addict to collect more energy blocks. These were not only addictive but could also be turned into powerful bombs with a simple squeeze. But just as Minsu was about to make his move, the car door was opened and a woman suddenly shot Minsu. Then Claude brought a message from Wilford to Curtis, who was now qualified to enter the most sacred place of the Snowpiercer. But Curtis never expected the train manager to be a calm and rational old man. Curtis asked him why he divided the classes and harmed the poor. Wilford calmly fried him a steak and then revealed the most shocking secret of the Snowpiercer. In these 17 years, every rebellion and revolution in the lower cars had been orchestrated by him. He conveyed the information the poor hoped for to the tail section through various means, and his partner was responsible for controlling the uprising behind the scenes. They had seamlessly cooperated for 17 years, where each uprising would fail and how many would die in each were all within their control. Then, Wilford disclosed a fact that Curtis couldn't accept. The partner who collaborated with Wilford to manipulate each uprising of the poor turned out to be Gilliam, whom Curtis most respected, and all they did was to control the population on the Snowpiercer. So rational brutality was very necessary. By reducing the population of the lower class, they also reduced the population of the rich, ensuring that not everyone would deplete their resources. But this time, there were some unexpected developments. Curtis's rebellion was planned to fail in the tunnel, but due to some mistakes by Gilliam, Curtis and his group broke through, costing Gilliam his life. Then Wilford said he was getting old and Snowpiercer now needed a new manager, and Curtis had passed his test. At this moment, Curtis's eyes lost all their luster, as if he had been successfully brainwashed by Wilford's conspiracy theories. Just then, Yona from outside suddenly burst in asking for matches, but Curtis pushed her away. Is Curtis going rogue? Watching Curtis towering above her, Yona was suffocating with disbelief. However, at that moment, she sensed something under the floor. After Curtis helped Yona open the floor, they discovered the kidnapped children were right there. It turns out the perpetual motion machine was not perpetual. Wilford would snatch a large number of younger children from the lower cars every year because only they could crawl into the perpetual motion machine to repair and replace damaged parts, ensuring the normal operation of Snowpiercer. But this turned these children into mindless zombies who only followed orders. At this moment, Curtis finally returned to his original intention and knocked down Wilford with a punch. He had fought his way here for justice and kindness, not for some so-called economic theory. Then Curtis didn't hesitate to reach down and rescue the little boy. Yona took this opportunity to get the matches and successfully lit the fuse on the train door bomb. Finally, after losing an arm, Curtis successfully rescued Tanya's child. But when the bomb was about to explode, the train door could not be closed. Curtis and Minsu protected the two small children with their bodies, like guarding humanity's last hope.
Nice.
The explosion caused an avalanche, and the Snowpiercer, which had been running for 17 years, was completely scattered and disintegrated by 10,000 tons of snow, with only 3 cars remaining intact. In the film's final scene, 2 children step off the Snowpiercer and find that it's not as cold outside as expected, and they won't freeze into ice blocks after leaving the train. Instead, they see a living polar bear on the vast snowy plains. This is Snowpiercer, a science fiction film released in 2013.